Friends, I make no apologies for repeatedly talking about freedom. But what is freedom? Is it something vague, singular, and generic? Or is it actually the case that freedom is an individual state of mind, and freedom means something completely different for every one of us? For me, freedom is the ability to be able to jump on my bike and ride from one end of the country to the other, to pitch a tent in the woods, or to build a fire and grill a steak. Whatever your view of freedom is, it should never ever be taken for granted. We must never forget that the daily freedoms we enjoy have been paid for by the many brave men and women who have selflessly laid down their lives to protect and defend our freedoms. And to anyone who has served or is currently serving in our country's armed forces, I say an undiluted and heartfelt thank you for providing me with the freedom to enjoy long rides in my motorcycle.
I'll text you when we're on the boat.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah. Can you get your pay?
Yeah.
Every adventure has to end somewhere, and the day had finally come for us to make the long journey home from Northern Ireland. There were no thrills, surprises or picturesque coastal or mountain roads planned for our journey. It was simply a long, gritty journey involving hundreds of miles of motorway riding. After saying our goodbyes, Carrie, Dolly and I left my parents' house early to ride the 20 miles or so to the ferry terminal in Belfast. The rain had continued from the previous day, but this time we had done the sensible thing and put on our waterproofs before we'd left. Believe it or not, this was a weekday morning heading into the country's capital on one of the major arterial motorways, commonly known as Rush Hour. However, Rush Hour Belfast is a far cry from Rush Hour London. Fortunately, the rain had stopped by the time we reached the Stena Line terminal, and after a 15-minute wait for the terminal to open, we were given our boarding passes and once again directed to the head of the queue. This time, however, we had plenty of two-wheel company. A local classic scooter club was heading to Liverpool for what should have been their annual club run. Unfortunately, COVID had scuppered their plans to meet up with other scooter clubs, but rather than cancel their plans, Mad Willie and his scooter crew had decided to make the most of things and were heading to Chester for a weekend of scooting. There's always been this unwritten divide in the biking world that motorcycles and scooters can't mix, or Harleys and sports bikes can't ride together. But I've never bought into that. Growing up in Belfast means I've endured enough politics to last 2 lifetimes, and the idea that politics can be allowed to creep into something that I enjoy so much, well, that just doesn't sit well with me. You see, I tend to view things in much more simple terms. Those being, no matter what you ride, you're welcome to ride with me. Because in the biking community, there are no strangers, just family we have yet to meet. Oh, they've all got pads in them.
Yeah.
That's lovely, thank you. What do you want? Yep. So return trip, it's a bit busier in the kennels. I think they're all full apart from one, and one lady had a Labrador. Duffy was a bit nervous and a bit heavy, so we swapped our basement apartment for the penthouse. So Duffy's below, he's just out for a walk at the minute, and Dolly's upstairs. But you'll not believe this, I hope you can see this. There is a pussycat who looks absolutely chilled out in the biggest kennel on the ground floor. Right, puss. Meow. Oh, look. There's always somebody determined to give us all carbon monoxide. Definitely the way to the motorways, but it's like we want to find them on the side. Huh?
I think we've just gone the long way, that's all.
Once again, the ferry crossing was smooth and painless, and the same could be said for the Stena Line crew and their slick drills. However, what could not be described as smooth and painless was my navigating from the Liverpool ferry terminal to the southbound motorway. Somewhere en route I must have missed a turning and ended up leading us on an unplanned scenic tour of Liverpool. Eventually though we found the motorway south, and thus began the long and mundane journey. The unplanned detour through Liverpool had set us back about an hour. We were fully expecting to get home late, and the delay was something we didn't need. Even more unwelcome was a never-ending traffic jam just as we reached the Midlands. That set us back about another 3/4 of an hour. And the reason for the traffic jam? Well, that was down to the great British love affair of coning off vast stretches of motorway for non-existent maintenance. The long journey was punctuated with fuel stops, and on one occasion for some greasy and unfulfilling burgers. Riding in the dark is fine, as long as the roads are reasonably well lit. But large stretches of British motorways are not, and that makes riding at speed in darkness a challenging and concentration intensive experience. With hindsight, it may well have been a better plan to have split the journey with an overnight stop. But as we hadn't, we'd no other option than to keep pressing on.
Wee, poo, do whatever.
And as the miles rolled by, and the cool but pleasant summer night brushed past my face, I became reflective on our adventure. It had been great to finally get to see my parents, and it was sad to have to say goodbye. But that sadness was swamped by the sheer euphoria of the wonderful adventures we had experienced. It was a journey that I knew I'd be making again. Who knows? Next time we might even go longer and travel even further. We're finally to arrive home at 1 AM, much to our neighbours' delight. We'd been travelling for some 18 hours and we were shattered but happy. And so friends, I thoroughly hope you've enjoyed our Northern Ireland road trip as much as we have. And I'll leave you with the same thoughts that I shared when we first set out. Ride, explore and discover as much and as often as you can. Because one day you'll wake up and it'll be too late to take that trip that you've always wanted to take.